Ubah dulu bahasanya.
But while helping an old lady cross the street, I was struck down by a truck.
Brak truk. Aku bertransmigrasi ke dinasti Tang yang agung.
The company's new intern didn't know that I was the boss. Every time she went home, she would get into my car. Since it was on my way, I never said anything. But early one weekend morning, while I was sleeping, she suddenly called and ordered me. I'm at the KTV. It was 2 in the morning. Calling me at this hour to pick you up? I'll ask him to fire you. So she still doesn't know I'm the boss. When I said nothing, Liu Changqian snorted proudly. Are you scared? If you're scared, come quickly. By the way, bring me a glass of warm milk. I want it as soon as I get in the car. Hearing her demands and orders, I smiled. Liu Changqian started working a month ago. I had just returned from inspecting the workshop and was still wearing my work overalls. In the elevator, I ran into her, who had just passed her interview. She frowned while looking at me sideways and instinctively stepped away. In the company, everyone who sees me steps aside with respect, so I didn't think much of it. The next day, after leaving work, as I was about to drive home, Liu Qiangqian opened my car door on her own. She sat in the passenger seat and said arrogantly, "You're the workshop technician, right? Yesterday I saw you drive through the Jingshu estate. I live there. Since it's on your way, pick me." I was stunned. I am in charge of more than a dozen companies and tens of thousands of employees. It was the first time someone dared to give me orders with such haughtiness. I was going to speak, but she had already buckled her seatbelt and snapped at me coldly. I'm in a hurry. Having said that, she took out her phone and played with it, without looking at me again. Since she was new to the company, I didn't think much of it. Since it was on the way, I took her. Upon arriving at the Jingshu estate, she didn't even say thank you. She slammed the car door hard and left without looking back. Considering she had just graduated and perhaps didn't quite understand the office's social norms, I didn't give it more thought. I thought the matter would end there. But Liu Qiangqian wouldn't stop. Every day, uninvited, she got into my car after work. Before I could refuse, she would already start setting conditions and demanding things. When you come to the company in the morning, stop by my estate and pick me up. Since it's on your way, I don't like the smell of tobacco. Even if this is your car, don't smoke in it. Today I came down 3 minutes before you. Next time, try not to make me wait. This seat is very hard. Tomorrow, bring me a soft cushion. I don't like the color of this car much. When you have time, put a pink wrap on it. I couldn't understand how someone could ride in my car by taking advantage while behaving as if they were doing me a favor, with an attitude of superiority. Now I understand. It turns out her cousin is the human resources director. From the other end of the line came the impatient complaint of, "Liu Qiangqian, why aren't you saying anything? Are you on your way yet?" "No, I'm going to sleep." "Find yourself a taxi." Having said that, I hung up the call. I had barely set the phone down when it rang again. It was Liu Qiangqian again. "Are you crazy? How dare you hang up on me? Do you know my cousin is right here with me right now? And what? You don't even understand that? That's why you're only good for low-level jobs. I'm telling you, today, I've invited my cousin and his family to sing and drink, to thank him for getting me into the company. If you had any sense, you would come right now to pay the KTV bill and take us home, one by one. That way you'd make a good impression on my cousin. If you do what I say, I might think about speaking well of you. Then, with just one word from my cousin, they can take you out of the workshop and bring you to the office." What a perfect plan. She didn't just want me to be a chauffeur, but also to pay the bill. I paused. I asked cautiously, "Are you sure that with just one word from your cousin, they can promote me and change my position?" The powers of the HR director are broad, but not so much that he can change positions at will. Appointments for intermediate or superior levels require the approval of the deputy director. Adjustments in key positions must pass through the executive committee, and the final approval for all these processes comes to my desk. It needs my signature. But anyway, let me tell you, last month, a veteran employee of the commercial department had an argument with my cousin, and my cousin transferred him to the warehouse. He had been with the company for 6 years, and they changed his position just like that, without him being able to complain. So don't be ungrateful. My cousin's power in the company is not something a simple, low-level worker can imagine. I remained silent. for a couple of seconds, and suddenly remembered that last month, a veteran employee with good skills had moved from the commercial department to the warehouse. At the time, it seemed strange to me, and I asked why such a good employee was going to the warehouse. The deputy director told me it was a voluntary request from the employee because he wanted to change positions. I thought it was because he couldn't handle the stress of the commercial department, and I signed the approval. I never imagined it was because of Lu Changqian's cousin. I inhaled deeply and exclaimed in a grave voice, "So your cousin has a lot of power in the company. Now you realize. My cousin says that soon he is going to bring everyone from our family, men, women, young and old, into the company so that our people are in every department. Then the entire company will be run by us. What an HR director. Such huge ambition." I smiled ironically and asked again, "By doing that, isn't your cousin afraid the boss will find out?" My cousin says that the owner of the company is the richest man in the city, who is in charge of a dozen large companies, and that he can't keep an eye on this one, which is the smallest. As long as the boss isn't around, my cousin does what he wants. Indeed, I am in charge of a dozen large companies, but the operation of those large companies is already quite stable. Apart from some important decisions that require my attention, I hardly have to deal with anything else. However, this smaller company, after several years, has not improved much. That's why, lately I've been at this company almost all the time, either inspecting the workshops or studying the market to find out where the problem was. Now I finally understand. So there was a plague within. Are you coming or not? I'm telling you, when my people are in the company, they will all be your bosses. If you don't flatter me now, you'll regret it later. Hearing the threats and promises of Lu Changqian, on the other end of the line, I smiled. What a coincidence. I've never been one to flatter anyone. Since you all are so capable, find a way to get home on your own. Having said that, I hung up the call. Lu Changqian, furious, sent me a message. A simple workshop worker dares to defy me? Just wait. Not only will I have my cousin fire you, but I'll make sure you're kicked out of the whole industry. Seeing this threat, I was speechless. I run a dozen companies. My fortune amounts to tens of billions, and an intern is threatening to kick me out of the industry. If this gets out, my friends in the business world would laugh at me for an entire year. But what really worries me isn't Lu Changqian's arrogance, but her cousin, a simple human resources director, cannot have that much power. It seems the company's plagues have reached high-ranking officials. Thinking about this, I sent a message to the company's deputy director, Wang Dong, to convene a general meeting of all employees tomorrow at 9 in the morning. It is mandatory. Everyone's attendance. No absences allowed. Right after sending the message, Wang Dong replied instantly, "Received, Director Lin." The next morning, I drove to the company as usual. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Lu Qian with her arms crossed at the company gate. Beside her was a man in his 30s, dressed in a suit, with an arrogant air. I looked at his identification, that I'm going to eat the dust, at the entrance of this company. Someone in the crowd couldn't help letting out a laugh, and then Wang Dong spoke seriously. "Everyone be quiet," I report to the boss. Frequently. How could I be mistaken? He is the founder of our company, the president and CEO, Mr. Lin. Tian King. Mr. Lin keeps a low profile. To better understand the real situation of the company, every day he wears the uniform, eats in the canteen, and even works in the workshop, all to experience in person the working conditions of the frontline employees and discover the problems the company has. You have gotten into a fine mess. Wang Dong's voice boomed in the premises. His tone and expression were more serious than ever. Seeing him like this, those who before were mocking my identity were stunned. One after another, they looked at me again with surprise in their eyes, with suspicion, and also with some fear. Chen Zai also began to take this seriously. He looked at me in disbelief, and then asked Wang Dong, "Deputy Director Wang, are you sure he is, Mr. Lin?" "Of course I am. Do you think I would dare to joke about something like this in front of everyone?" Having said that, the gaze of Wang Dong became extremely piercing. "Chen Zai, you have a lot of nerve. Eh? How dare you at the company entrance, and in front of so many people, ask the owner of the company for 65,000 as a kickback fee and for moral damages? Don't you know you are digging your own grave?" Chen Zai's face suddenly turned white, and without realizing it, he squeezed the phone in his hand. On his phone screen, The payment code was still visible. Lukian was completely dazed. She opened her eyes wide, looking at me with no color in her face. No, it can't be. How could you be the boss? Lukian was stunned, but Chen Z reacted immediately and turned towards me with a smile on his face. Mr. Lin. What a strange coincidence. He rubbed his hands and flattered me with a smile. 00:022:06:60 hours, 7 minutes and 22 seconds, 766. Hey, Mr. Lin. Why didn't you tell us before that you were the owner? If you had told us before, I wouldn't have played that joke on you. Joke, of course. A joke. That thing about the 65,000 was just a joke. Being such an important boss, you're not going to take it seriously, right? Of course, Mr. Lin. I was also joking. This is what they say. To get to know each other, you have to face each other. Think about why I got into your car and not someone else's. It's because fate wanted it to be yours. That means we have a connection. Everything is written in the heavens, Mr. Lin. You who are so generous won't hold a grudge against me, right? I looked at him without saying anything. His smile began to fade, but he still tried to maintain it. And besides, the fact that I get in your car is also an honor for you. Think about a pretty girl like me always being in your car. It looks good, doesn't it? Lu Qian, I called her. She immediately forced a fawning smile and looked at me expectantly. Mr. Lin, what's wrong? Didn't you say before that if I were the owner of the company, you would eat the dust at the entrance? Lu Qian was left frozen, and her fawning smile completely vanished. Mr. Lin, I was just joking. How could you take that seriously? I looked at her without saying anything. At that moment, Wang Dong approached and reminded me, Mr. Lin, it's time for the meeting. I looked at Wang Dong, then shifted my gaze and said to everyone, all employees, to the boardroom. A few minutes later, all employees were gathered in the boardroom. Everyone held their breath and looked at me with fear, especially those who before had helped Chen Zi and Lu Qian to mock me and who had gloated over my misfortune. They were trembling uncontrollably. Tense, they didn't dare to raise their heads to look at me. Today's meeting aims to resolve several matters. My voice, through the podium microphone, spread throughout the room, making everyone straighten up unconsciously. First matter, Deputy Director Wang, last month a veteran employee from the marketing department, was transferred to the warehouse. How much do you know about this matter? It's Han Shin from the marketing department. He had been in marketing for 6 years and had always had good results. At that time, Director Chen presented the request for a change of position, saying that Han himself had asked for the transfer. Did you check? The expression on Wang Dong's face became somewhat tense. I asked Director Chen. He said he had already confirmed it with Han. Director Chen, are you sure it was Han who requested the transfer? Chen showed a slight gesture of guilt, but quickly composed himself and replied seriously, Mr. Lin, the truth is that Han requested it of his own free will. 013-133 to 0 hours, 9 minutes and 19 seconds, 800. I have the request signed by him right here. Okay. Then I took out a medical report. Then why, when I sent someone to investigate this matter, did Han's wife tell me that after an argument with you, he was transferred to the warehouse against his will, and that he is depressed, and has even been diagnosed with moderate depression, and is now hospitalized? Upon hearing this, Chen Zi jumped, clearly not expecting that I would have investigated this matter beforehand, and Lu Qian, as if remembering something, suddenly turned pale and lowered her head. Feeling guilty, she didn't dare to say anything. The whole boardroom fell silent. Everyone looked at Chen Zi. Sweat began to form on his forehead again, but he still stood firm and said, Mr. Lin, maybe there is a misunderstanding. At that time, Han, Chen Zi, are you sure you want to keep making up stories in front of all the employees? Chen Zi suddenly fell silent and did not speak again. You've been with the company for 5 years, right? Yes, Mr. Lin. 5 years and 3 months. In these 5 years, I haven't rested for a single day. I've worked my skin off for the company. Worked your skin off? I believe so, Mr. Lin. You know that these years, the company has not had good results. I, as Director of Human Resources, have to take care of hiring and firing, and worry about everything. Maybe some things I haven't done entirely well, but always thinking about what's best for the company. What an argument, thinking of the company, then collecting kickback fees from employees, is also thinking of the company? Chen Zi went rigid but soon recovered. Mr. Lin, That money I collect, I use it to maintain good relations for the benefit of the company. That now it is difficult to hire. Talented people are being fought over by other companies. If I don't invest a little, how am I going to attract top talent for the company? Mr. Lin, you can't just look at the money I collect, but at the value I bring to the company. It's about Chen Zi, the HR director. Upon seeing me, Lucan rushed to intervene and said to Chen Zi, "Cousin, it's him. You are the worker who disrespected my cousin. Who hired you? How is it that I haven't seen you before?" To avoid tedious formalities, when I come to the company, I usually keep a low profile. Not only do I dress simply, but the car I use is also the most economical one in the family. That is why only top management knows my true identity. An HR director like him, obviously, does not have the privilege of knowing me. Hearing the words of Chenzi, Luqian felt she had discovered a huge secret, and her eyes lit up. "Cousin, not even you, who are the director of human resources, have seen him? Then he surely got in through a connection. Fire him right now." So he was a connected hire. No wonder he's so clumsy, considering you've been driving my cousin around for a month. Regarding work, I can allow you to stay in the company, but you will have to meet the following requirements first. A connection fee of 50,000, which you will deposit directly into my personal account. Otherwise, with a single word, I can make this nepotism hire leave the company. Second, you will have to make sure to drive my cousin to work every day and do everything she tells you without complaining. Third, since yesterday you didn't listen to my cousin and didn't come to pick us up, you will have to compensate us for it. I'm charging you 1,000 for the taxi, alcohol, and karaoke, add up to 4,000. And since my cousin didn't sleep all night because of you, 10,000 for moral damages. In total, you owe us 65,000 in cash or by transfer. I never imagined that being the owner of the company, my own employees would ask me for money to come to work, and right at the doorstep of my company. With such audacity, when he finished speaking, Chen Zi took out his collection code, waiting for Lu Xian to transfer submissively. She also looked at me gloating with a look full of satisfaction for her revenge. Seeing this scene, many employees approached. Everyone was used to Chen Zi's actions. Some looked at me with pity, telling me to pay quickly, or else I wouldn't be able to stay in the company. Others looked at me with mockery and teased, saying, "Why did I mess with who I messed with?" And specifically with Director Chen. Seeing everyone's reaction, I couldn't help but ask, "Chen Zi, does everyone who wants to enter the company have to pay you 50,000 for the connection fee?" Listen, for someone like you who entered without going through the official hiring process, I, as Human Resources Director, handle the procedures and the paperwork. Don't I deserve a small compensation for my work? The fact that my cousin is willing to accept your money is an honor for you. Just like when you get into my car, it is also a privilege for you. And if I refuse, let me tell you one thing. Today, the owner of the company is coming in person to the general meeting. So just by me mentioning your name, saying you are an illegal hire who entered illegally, not only will you lose your job, but you will also harm whoever brought you here, so you better think about it carefully. 65,000 for your peace of mind is not a bad offer. Cousin, is the owner really coming today? Mr. Dewey told me so. This morning he sent a notice in the group, asking everyone to be present. Lu Qianqian fixed her hair and makeup quickly and asked excitedly, "Cousin, do you know what kind of women our boss likes? Do you think I have any chance? You are young and beautiful. No man should be able to reject you. That's why I hired you. When the boss arrives, I will find a way to introduce you to him. And if you manage to captivate his heart, our family will go very far. Cousin, don't worry. I will do everything possible to make the boss fall in love with me." Seeing them like that, I couldn't help but sigh and say, "The boss won't notice someone like you." "What would you know, you low-class hillbilly? Pay what you owe now, because when I become the president's wife, you won't even have the honor of flattering me." I didn't say anything. Chen lost his patience and asked for the last time, "Are you going to pay the 65,000 or not?" "No. Since you don't want to know what's good for you, don't blame me for being harsh." Having said this, he called security. Yet, this low-class worker out now, he entered illegally. Receiving the order, several guards approached to kick me out of the company. At the critical moment, someone shouted, "Deputy Director Wang has arrived." Hearing it, everyone looked toward Wang Dong and greeted him with respect. Wang Dong observed the crowd and asked with a frown, "What is going on? Why are you all gathered at the entrance, Deputy Director Wang? I have just discovered an illegal hire who entered the company illegally without going through the official hiring process, and besides, his attitude is terrible. Not only did he not cooperate with the investigation, but he has also disrespected me. I know the boss is coming to the meeting today, and I wanted to kick him out before he arrived, lest he disrespects the boss and becomes a disaster. Yes. Not only did he enter through nepotism, but he also bragged about knowing the boss's tastes and disrespected this guy. He must be kicked out. Now, how is it that he dared to disrespect the boss? Show me who is so daring. Chen Zhe pointed at me immediately. It's this individual. Wang Dong followed the direction of Chen Zhe's hand, walked through the crowd, and looked at me. The moment he saw my face, his eyes opened wide, and he said with a trembling voice, "Oh, boss!" This shout from Wang Dong left everyone in silence. Everyone's eyes went wide, looking at me in disbelief. Chen Zhe and Lu Changqian were also stunned. After 2 seconds of total silence, Deputy Director Wang, what kind of joke is this? Him, the boss? That's impossible. Deputy Director Wang, did you not sleep well? Yes, Deputy Director Wang. He is a simple operator who spends the day in the workshop. How can he be the boss? Our boss is the richest man in the city. He has more than 10 companies and a fortune of tens of billions. He, on the other hand, wears flea market clothes, drives a car worth just over 100,000. He looks nothing like a boss. Not only them, many other employees also agreed. It's true. I see this guy every day in the workshop. He is always mixed in with the low-grade workers. He doesn't seem like a big boss at all. The other time I saw him hunched over on the assembly line, helping to repair a machine, with his hands full of oil. Would a boss do that? Of course not. Last week at lunchtime I ran into him in the canteen, queuing with his tray, eating the same thing as us. The 12 menu. The owner of our company is the richest man in the city. How can he be so low-key? Hearing these comments, Chen Zhe felt more confident. He crossed his arms and looked at Wang Dong with a half-smile. Deputy Director Wang, has this imposter deceived you or told you something that has made you confused? Upon hearing these words, Wang Dong put on an angry face and reprimanded Chen Zhe instantly. Shut up once and for all. Chen Zhe jumped at the shout, and his smile froze. Wang Dong approached me quickly, bowed to a 90-degree angle with a trembling voice, and said, Mr. Lin, I am very sorry. It is my fault for not having known how to manage and for allowing employees to be so insolent. I'm sorry you went through this. I made a gesture with my hand to tell him to straighten up. Then I looked at Chen Zhe and said calmly, Director Chen, what do you think the owner of a company should be like? Certainly not wearing flea market clothes and driving an old car, and even less mixing with the workers in the workshop every day. Oh no, then what should the boss do? Wear brand name suits, drive luxury cars, and sit in the office with the air conditioning? Of course, the boss is the visible face of the company and must have a presence. Look at you from top to bottom. You don't have a shred of presence. My cousin is right. If you were the boss,